such a beautiful blessing and a beautiful joy to be together as always after our break yesterday in honor of the Honorable President of India. That was such a great honor to have him here. We begin our satsang with a question that comes into us from our family joining us from all over the world. It's such a blessing that through this wonderful technology, through a simple camera, some wires, our family all over the world is able to join in. And they send questions. They send questions in the comments on Facebook, on YouTube. So we begin by taking one of those questions to remind them that even though they're not here physically with us, they are with us together in satsang. And to remind us that our sangha, our community, is not only the people that you see to your left and your right there in front of you, behind you, but that actually our community is everyone. It's all over the world. How can I avoid distraction? There is so much sound, noise, distraction. And I get angry at people who are making the noise. I know it's not their fault, but I get so much anxiety and anger when it happens. The peace that we find, the stillness that we find, the quiet that we find, is only peaceful when it's actually quiet on the inside. One of the big mistakes that we make, one of the big myths, is this idea that somehow the problem is the outside noise. I have a lot of people come to me here, especially during the summertime, when we've got so many different kathas going on and religious programs going on, morning till evening, all day. And I'll have people from abroad will say to me, "It's so loud here, I can't meditate." And I'll ask them, "Where are you from?" And they'll say something like, "Oh, the south of England, the countryside, Maine." You know, some place where there's like 5 people for a square kilometer. And I always tell them, you know, if you can't meditate in Maine, in the south of England, in a place where there's 5 people per square kilometer, clearly the problem is not outside. The problem is inside. And India is a place that has never given an advertisement that says, "Come to India, it's quiet." Too loud at home? Come to India. You look at all of the beautiful ads that Incredible India does, none of them says anything like, "Come for the quiet." India is a place that teaches us something very precious. It teaches us how to find the quiet within. It teaches us how to find that noiselessness amidst the noise. This is why, or one of the reasons, it's why we worship the cow, right? There's all sorts of other reasons that, of course, predate modern day traffic. But these days, aside from the cow being the giver of all, I know on a personal level, the reason that I worship her is because she is the embodiment of peace in the chaos. She's the embodiment of noiseless amidst the noise. Because cows are not stupid. Cows are very smart. So it's not कि उसको पता नहीं है क्या चल रहा है. She knows. And yet, in the midst of traffic, midst of a Delhi road, everybody's honking horns, cutting in and out of traffic, weaving in and out. And what is our Gomata doing? आराम से बैठ रहे हैं, ध्यान कर रहे हैं, विश्राम कर रहे हैं. Now, I'm not sure what it is about her that enables her to do that, but that quality is what makes me feel like bowing my head. So, if you find that you become very angry by noise outside, allow yourself to realize that even when the noise outside is quiet, it's the noise inside that's the problem. When you sit to meditate, yes, of course, try to choose as quiet of a room as possible. If you live in an apartment over a busy street, invest in a 20 rupee pair of earplugs. It's worth it. Or turn on some background chanting or om or whatever it may be. But what you'll find very quickly is the minute that the background becomes quiet, that's when the inner noise starts. And that's the one that is much more important to work with, because that's with you everywhere. It's with you in your quiet bedroom. It's with you when the earplugs are in. It's with you in the south of England. It's with you in Maine. It's with you on mountaintops. So rather than focusing on the noise outside, focus on the noise inside. And that sense of jumpiness that you get. Somebody's made a noise that you don't like. Somebody's done something you don't like. That jumpiness, that's what we meditate for. We meditate to stay distraction-free. And whether that distraction is a thought, is a sound. So look, this was a perfect example, okay? It's beautiful. Every night gives me a perfect example. It's human nature. Here we are, sitting in a garden, a sacred garden on the banks of Ganga, in the lap of the Himalayas. We've just prayed and worshipped on the banks of Ganga, performing arati. We're sitting in satsang. It's pretty quiet, relatively speaking. And yet, every slight thing, somebody coughs, somebody sneezes, somebody changes the cross of their legs, some people come in and quietly sit down. What happens? All of the attention goes like that. It's human nature. But it's a part of our human nature that really would be wonderful for our own mental and spiritual health if we could master. We don't have to be distracted. What it is that our minds are very weak and are very flittery. जो सामने है, वो मैं उसको ध्यान देती हूँ. And this is actually, it's a great tragedy because we sit down maybe to read an important book, maybe to read scripture. Maybe we sit down to write. Maybe we sit down to work on an important project. Or we sit down to have an important conversation with a loved one. We sit down to meditate. We sit in satsang. And yet our minds are so fragile that every time the wind changes direction, we're gone. And what it means is that on a spiritual level, we're never able to go to the next level, to unfold, to peel back the next layer. Because every time we lose our attention, we have to regain it, right? You're meditating, you're starting to go really deep, and then there's a noise. Your eyes open, oh my God, what was that? Or there's a thought, oh, I forgot to call so-and-so. Now again, assuming that you remember you were meditating and you don't just stand up to make a phone call, you kind of have to start not exactly at the beginning again, but it takes a while to regain that place you were in. And then again, 30, 45 seconds later, you're distracted again. And then again, you have to regain it. And so, if we're so easily distracted, it prevents us actually from deepening that meditative experience. Because we have to keep redoing the first few moments. It prevents us in our work. Because every time we sit to do something, to read something, to write, to do a project, to focus, every time our phone beeps, vibrates, every time we get some notification that we've got a new email or someone has liked our Facebook post, suddenly we're there. And so our lives, instead of being acting, instead of actually engaging in action, deliberate action, karma, yoga, we simply react. Our entire lives become simply reaction. We are reacting to every beep, buzz, bling, vibrate, notification, every noise, every itch, everything we see, every advertisement, click here. And so the day goes, and we find that so frequently none of the things that we had intended to get done that day, to accomplish that day, got done, and yet we were so busy all day long. And so frequently you can't even remember what you were busy doing, because you were just reacting. Someone sends an SMS, do this, you do it. Someone calls, says, meet me, you go meet them. An email comes, you immediately respond without even thinking. And so we lose the ability on a deep spiritual level, on a mental level, and on a level of our work to actually be grounded and focused. And so the ability not to be distracted is a very great skill and a very important skill, whatever your ultimate goal is. If your goal is enlightenment, you need the skill. If your goal is to write a book, you need the skill. If your goal is simply to be a beautiful instrument in God's hands and respond in every moment to what God is asking you, what the universe is asking you, then you need to not be distracted by every Facebook like, by every notification. Whatever we are doing, we need to be able to hold our awareness. So for the question asker, it's noise, okay. Every time you find yourself distracted by noise, instead of yelling or getting upset at that person, just bring your awareness back to your breath. Back to your breath. And in your meditation, really focus on staying focused on the breath, on a mantra, on a candle flame, on a prayer, on an image of the divine, whatever you are meditating upon. But really focus on not letting yourself get pulled off. And the more you can develop this skill, because it is a skill. We've been trained to be distracted. It's not our fault. It's really not our fault. It's what marketing has done to us over the last many decades. It has trained our brains to have 5 things going on simultaneously, to be constantly distracted, constantly this with our attention. So that we buy what they want us to buy. And they, of course, don't care whether we actually accomplished what we wanted that day. They don't care how deep our meditation is, how able we are to have a conversation with a loved one. Right? This is one of the things that children complain about so frequently. My parents are always distracted. Parents say, I want my child to share with me. And the kids say, yeah, when I try to share, they're looking at their phone. And so we've got this situation where a child comes home from school and says, hey mom, hey dad, this happened. Or the mom or dad is like, yeah, thodi der mein, just in a little while. Or the child is telling and we get a phone call, oh, I have to take this. We get an SMS, we look at it. Maybe we don't respond, but at least our attention has been diverted to the SMS. And what it teaches our loved ones is, you are not as important as the person on the other end of that notification. And of course we know that's not true, so why are we giving them that message? So freeing ourselves of that distraction, whether to noise or to anything else, is critical. It's never about the other person. It would be like blaming someone for sending you a text message. How dare you distract me? Right? Turn off your notifications. Leave your phone in the other room. Turn it on silent. It's not the guy who sent the text's fault. The world is going to be very noisy. The world is always noisy. The question for us is, how can I find that noiselessness? And that's what our spiritual practice gives us. Does anyone here have any questions? Yeah, get the mic. Are there any questions that anyone here has? Okay. I'll take another one that's come in advance and then give you another opportunity in a few minutes. I believe that I have grown a great deal on my spiritual path. The challenge is that my partner has not. At least I don't think he has. Do we have a future together? Absolutely you do. There's no rule that says that loved ones, whether it's a married couple, whether it's close friends, there's no rule that says you must be on the same spiritual level in order to get along. You have to be on the same path. You have to be going to the same place. But see, spiritual paths don't really have advanced places. You know, we think about it like that. But the truth really is, spirituality is just getting us in touch with the truth of who we are. These days, of course, spirituality has also sadly become a business. And so sadly, there's now all sorts of people who will convince you that there are beginning and intermediate and advanced levels of spirituality that you can get, certified in. And the dilemma with that is it brings that judgment of the mind into a place where the mind should not be. The mind operates in separation. That's how the mind functions. It's able to look at, understand, figure out, analyze, judge, compare things that are separate from it. So whether it's a bank statement, whether it's a job proposal, whether it's a math problem, whatever it may be, whether it's traffic on the freeway I've got to navigate, the mind is very good. It's geared to operate in separation. But spirituality is about the self. It's about who we are, the truth. The minute the mind kicks in, we've lost it. Because the minute the mind kicks in, it now is judging me from a distance. It's saying, you did great. That was a good meditation today. A+ meditation. But the minute that the mind says that, I've lost my meditation. How many times do you meditate? Maybe after you've read a book or you've heard a discourse about experiences during meditation, about discovering the true self, about stillness, expansiveness, an experience of infinity, whatever it may be. And you sit to meditate, and you're having a beautiful meditation. No judgment, no analysis, you're just there. And then suddenly the mind goes, oh, this must be what they were talking about. Oh yeah, this is that spaciousness. Oh yeah. The minute that happens, you've lost the meditation. Because now the mind has kicked in. So we need to not allow ourselves to hand over our spiritual practice to the games of the mind that are all about judging, levels, layers, analysis. Spirituality is about oneness. It's about union. That's what yoga means, union. There's no place for judging. You can judge an asana. You can say, your trikonasana is better than your trikonasana. But your yoga is purely individual. You can't say your yoga is better than your yoga. Sure, your leg may be straighter in the asana, but the actual yoga, well, there is no comparison, because there's nothing that's separate. It's all about oneness. It's like saying, we're all in the Ganga River. I got in on Parmarth Niketan's ghat. You got in on Gita Bhavan's ghat. Somebody else got in on Swargashram's ghat. So who's wetter? Right? Who's wetter? Well, we're all in the river. That's all that matters. There's no more wet, less wet. What matters is we're all in the river. Yes, we get there at different times, in different ways, from different paths. But instead of saying, who's wetter? Or I'm wetter today than yesterday, gotta get wetter. Just recognize, it's not about more wet or less wet. It's about how much of you are you able to allow to get wet at all? Because most of us get wet only on the outside. When we meditate, what we may consider a good meditation might simply be an undistracted, very attentive chanting of mantra or recitation of a prayer, and that's beautiful. But until our heart really opens, until we actually feel that mantra, the mantra is not only supposed to be recited with our lips, the mantra is supposed to be heard with our inner ear. It's supposed to be tasted. It's supposed to be felt. The mantra is meant to literally reverberate through our entire existence. So until your heart is open and the heart is wet, and all of you, the spirit is wet, that becomes the question, not who's wetter, or am I almost all wet? The question is, okay, here I am in the river, I'm wet, and yet there are parts of me I have not yet exposed to this river. There are parts of me that have not yet joined in this meditation. There are parts of me that are not chanting my mantra. Is my heart chanting my mantra? With every beat of my heart, am I chanting the mantra? Are my lungs chanting the mantra? As the oxygen comes in, as the carbon dioxide goes out, are they chanting my mantra? So don't worry about where someone else has reached. As long as they're on the path, that's all that matters. Focus on your path, because remember, as our path gets deeper, we realize there is no place you end and he begins. Allow the depth of your path to open and expand, and to create so much space that it actually energetically brings him into it as well. So yes, you absolutely have a future together, as long as you can get your mind out of this judging and comparing and contrasting and layers and levels. Focus on expansion. Focus on going deeper and deeper within yourself. And focus on being a transmitter, an energetic transmitter of that which you're experiencing on the inside. It's why we flock to gurus. Not only for their gyan, not only for the wisdom they give. There are many gurus who don't actually speak. With Puja Swamiji, we're very blessed that he actually gives gyan through words and teachings as well. But we flock to them. Even the ones who don't actually give teachings verbally. Because in their energetic space, we experience something different in our own selves. We experience that opening, that transformation in their presence, because they are exuding it. That which they are experiencing on the inside is just flowing out of them energetically so strongly that you feel it. Like the iron filings, get pulled by a magnet. Well, in this way, instead of pulling, it's like the energy is going out into you. And so that's what attracts us to the Guru. But even if you're not an enlightened guru, don't worry. If you're having these deep spiritual experiences, you are also an energetic transmitter. Maybe not to masses, but at least to those who are around you. Focus on transmitting. Focus on sharing that which you're experiencing. And slowly, slowly it'll touch others. But remember, of course, everyone's got their own karmic package. And everybody's going to experience their own truth in different ways, at different times, at different speeds. Don't judge. Just love. And that love will take you deeper on your path. And that love will bring the two of you together, closer and closer. Does anyone here have a question? Yes.
If we all are energy, then how do we...
माइक देना उनको. माइक आपको. अच्छा माइक नहीं है अपने पास. No problem.
So if we all are energy, like how you said, then how do we raise our vibrations?
How do we raise our vibrations? Think about how you feel. Okay, everybody close your eyes for a moment. And think about an experience for you that you feel is a very high vibrational experience. It may be the Ganga Arati. It may be a bath in Ganga. It may be your meditation. It may be chanting Kirtan. It may be feeding the poor. But think for a moment about that experience. Just allow it to fill you. And now shift your awareness to a very low vibrational experience. And it may be having a conversation with someone who's really negative, gossipy. It may be when your own mind gets negative and judgmental. It may be when you find yourself telling a lie or doing something that you know isn't right. Think about that for a moment and feel that energetic experience. Okay, open your eyes. You could feel the difference, right? Could everyone feel the difference between those? Right? So we know. You don't need me to tell you what's high vibrational. In order to increase your vibrations, engage in high vibrational activities. It's like saying, I want to gain weight. What do? Eat more. I want to lose weight. What do? Eat less. Now, I realize there's some subtleties involved there as well, but in general, people who eat more tend to be heavier than people who eat less. Okay? In general. Vibrationally, people who are engaged in high vibrational activities are going to be of a higher vibration. If you stand in front of an air conditioner that's on full power for a really long time, when you walk away and you touch your skin, how's your skin going to feel? Cold. If you stand at the yagna for a long time, you perform the yagna. When you walk away from the yagna, your arm that's been doing the ahuti, how does that arm feel? Warm. Right? Seedhi si baat hai. Very simple. High vibrations come when we are engaged in high vibrational activities. When we surround ourselves with high vibrational people. You want your skin to be cold? Stand in front of an air conditioner. You want it to be warm? Stand in front of a heater, in front of a fire. Because we are energetic, we pick up the energy around us. To change that energy, change what we are doing inside, the thoughts we're having inside, the practices we are engaged in, and change where you go and who you interact with. Yes, last for this evening.
So very practical questions.
Sure.
Related to day-to-day conversations with people. Generally in India, I have experienced that people ask very silly and personal questions, and how to deal with those interactions. Even strangers ask.
Yes. I'm so glad you asked this. This is great. So, since we don't have the cordless mic tonight, I'll just repeat it for our family joining in online. She asked, this is a very practical question, she said. So many times strangers ask these very personal questions. And what do we do in those circumstances? So, when I first came to India, 25 years ago, I realized very soon, very quickly, that I had an option between two different ways of thinking about the people of India. Because the truth is, in India, there is no such thing as social space. In America, and in much of the rest of the world, when you're talking to someone, there's kind of an agreed upon distance that people feel comfortable standing. Somebody gets a little too close and instinctively you will move back. That's not true here. Similarly, in terms of sitting next to people. Again, there's kind of everyone feels it inside, like this is an appropriate distance that you would sit from somebody. In India, that appropriate distance looks like a seat to somebody. They will come in and sit in it. You've left a distance, chalo ab jagah hai mere liye. And if it means that their knees are on your knees, okay, so be it. And in their mind, they haven't just invaded your space. This is how it is. So India really does not have a sense of social space. Personal space, you could call it. And I remember in the very beginning, I realized that I had two choices. I could either feel offended and violated, or I could feel adopted. Now, here's how it happened for me. I decided in the very beginning that I was going to learn how to wear saris. Everybody said, nay, it's very difficult. You should wear salwar kameez. It's much easier. But I decided that at that time, I don't remember what the population of India was. It was less than 1 billion, but let's call it 1 billion. At that time, I decided that these hundreds of millions of women, right? You look at the whole population of India, you say about half of them are women. Hundreds of millions of women are tying saris every day. Many of them have never been to school. I was a PhD student. I figured it can't be rocket science if they're doing it. I will learn how to tie a sari. So I learned how to tie a sari. And I used to do it with the pleats here and also the pleats here. So the whole very formal, okay. But I didn't tie it very well. I was not nearly as smart as I thought I was. And I would walk down the street, outside, not even in the ashram, outside. And random women would come up to me and they would stick their hands in my underwear and they would fix my sari. Or they would stick their hand into my blouse and I remember the first time it happened. It happened so quickly and I was stunned. Kuch keh nahi paaya. I was just speechless. And when she walked away, I thought, oh my God, that woman has just stuck her hand in my underpants. I've been violated. But then I realized, she's actually just done for me the same thing she would have done for her daughter if her daughter was walking out of the house with a very poorly tied sari. And that instead of feeling violated, if I could feel adopted, that essentially what that woman did was she just adopted me on the street. She did for me what she would have done for her daughter. And it changed how I felt about everything. In the same way, I would sit down in the arti. Somebody would be sitting there, I would come and sit here, leaving what I felt was an appropriate amount of space between us. Someone would come and sit in that space. Their knees were on me. Maybe they'd put their baby in my lap or their purse in my lap. Whatever it was, right? This is India. And you realize this person has just adopted me. In the beginning I thought, do I look like a shelf? But I realized they're not seeing me as a shelf. They're seeing me as their family. Yes, of course they can put their knee on me. Yes, of course I can hold their purse or their baby. And it changed everything so drastically. And it's the same with the questions. It's the same thing. Everybody would say, all the time, and to everyone, not just to me, are you married? You're not married. Why aren't you married? Don't you want to get married? What do your parents think about the fact that you're not married? Oh, you're married? That's great. Why don't you have children? When are you going to have children? What do your parents think about the fact that you don't have children? How much money do you make? And again, you think, oh my God, who are you? Right? If I wanted therapy, I'd hire someone. But then you realize that person has just adopted me. They are asking me questions as a family. It's why we put Bhai and Ben or Bhaiya and Didi or uncle and auntie right at the end of people's names. Because we see them as family. And so when somebody asks you those questions, realize you have a choice. You've been violated or you've been adopted. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to bare your soul and treat every random person who asks you a question like they were your mother or your therapist. Develop strategies. Strategies of how to answer certain questions. With love. With honoring the fact that this person has not asked to insult you. They didn't mean to insult you or violate you. They meant to just get closer and know more about you and feel adopted. Develop strategies. A simple one-line answer to these questions. That's polite, that's simple, that's loving, not mind your own business. But something that honors the love in them that made them ask this question. But that also keeps you able to maintain what you want. I had to learn to do this with sweets. Because the other thing about Indian culture is, when somebody cooks something, you have to eat it. Whatever they've made, pyar se banaya, you have to eat it. And I'm not a sweets eater. And Indian sweets in general are, for me, way too sweet. And I would find myself in people's homes where they would very lovingly try to make me eat gulab jamuns and rasgulla and these things. And I would say, no, thank you. Which in America is a very polite thing to say. But here it was like a horrible insult. And they would say, what? No, you have to eat it. I made it with my own hands. I made it with love. I made it today. I made it for you. And then you're stuck. But what I developed over time was a way to manage that situation. I would stand up from my chair and I would give that woman a big hug. And I would say, I accept your love. Thank you for your love. I am so happy for your love. But I just really prefer taking my love in the form of hugs rather than gulab jamun. And you see, I haven't insulted her. I've met love with love. But I also have not had to eat something that I don't want to eat. And you'll develop a strategy. Let love be your guide. What is the most loving way to respond to the question? So let's try one. Give me a question. Give me one of the questions that annoys you the most.
How do you make your money?
How do you make your money? Wonderful. Okay. Well, one option is you simply tell them what your job is. In most cases, that's the easiest way out. I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, whatever it may be. I sweep the streets. I work for Swachh Bharat. Right? Nothing to be ashamed of anywhere. Everything is important. You're a sweeper, great. You are a Swachhata Krantakari. So the simple answer is just tell them your job. But if for whatever reason you don't want to, then you can say something like, I am so blessed. I am so blessed to have so many different opportunities to offer my skills to the world. And the world takes care of me. Or I'm so blessed to serve as a tool in God's hands in so many different ways. And God takes care of me. Something like that. You've responded. You haven't said mind your own business. And you've responded with love. Okay? Things like that. If you let love be the guide, you'll always find a way. Beautiful. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening and a beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Timing-wise, we're on a slightly earlier schedule these days because the sun has started setting earlier. So Ganga Aarti these days is now starting right around 5. Satsang is after that. So we'll be starting these days between 5:45 and 6 each evening. And looking so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And so much love to you all.